Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a great AM live session today. It's really nice to see people, not behind a screen. I think that's just so good. So, listen, thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Stuart Miles. I'm the Managing Director at Cox Automotive for the Retail Solutions in Europe. And I've got the easy job, okay? I'm going to be your host for the next 30 minutes, asking the challenging questions to the panel next to me. I'll get them to introduce themselves in a moment. I guess what I want to do is first to set the scene and the expectations of what I see. And what I want it to be is a thought-provoking, stimulating conversation, really looking at the consumer buying behaviours. What I want to do is explore the use of technology that's out there, how we can enable us to sell more cars, and fundamentally, I think automotive sometimes has a little bit of a stigma attached to it that it's not as advanced with its digital technology in the retail sales environment or the pipeline as some other verticals within the retail market. And I hope we can dispel some of that theory here today and actually ensure that as industry we can move forward using the right technology. So before we crack on with the really cool questions, I'm just going to ask you just to briefly introduce yourself. So can we start at the end there, Shaun?
Yeah, I'm Shaun Harris. I'm the Commercial Director of Codeweavers. We're a software development company that operate in the finance, e-retail and point of sale space.
Stuart, hi. My name's Andrew Heywood. My role is the Head of Client Experience at Modix UK. We provide retailers with manufacturer used car locator solutions.
I'm James Talbot. I'm Head of Product for EVA Valuations and Appraisals and very much responsible for the building of our valuations and appraisal platform. So it'd be good to talk to you about that today.
I'm Elliot. I work alongside Andrew as Account Director at Modix.
And thank you to Joe who stepped in because James cannot be here. James Smith cannot be here today. So thanks, Joe, for stepping in last minute. That's great. It's like a meeting of brilliant minds. Yeah. So let's kick off then. So Andrew, I'm actually going to start with you. Okay. You're the lucky one there. So I'm going to start with a hypothesis. The way that people find, select, and buy cars is changing at great pace. Now, is that really true? And what is the consumer behaviour change that we're seeing right now?
Okay, well, thanks for opening with me. That's great, thank you.
Welcome.
So I think undoubtedly over the last 2 years, we've seen, everybody in the room will agree, we've seen a significant change in the way that we're engaging with consumers. And that starts really with the way the consumer wants to engage with the retailer. And through lockdown 1, lockdown 2, that fundamentally changed massively. So to look at your question, it's definitely changing. It has changed, there's room for more change. I think consumers are becoming more and more confident in using online tools to aid their decision. But let's not forget right at the start that people buy cars from people. Digital is there to enhance the consumer's journey and experience, not to replace it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. And I guess, Shaun, do you tend to agree with that statement? That could be a really easy question to answer straight away, but if you agree, expand on it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, I do agree with it. Absolutely. I think they mentioned the pandemic. I think we were making progress before, and there'd been plenty of research and some estimations of especially in new car, which was leading the charge on the change of buying habits. What lockdown did was it switched focus to used car very, very quickly, where there was just a couple of sites. Suddenly, there was a massive upsurge in adoption. I think just the very fact that tools are out there for customers to use now in the majority is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that customers will use them because it's the norm, and it's actually not having them that becomes the not the norm.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. And I promise, by the way, this is the only time I'm going to mention the C word. All right. You mentioned the pandemic, so COVID-19. What impact do you think COVID-19 has actually had on this? Has it accelerated that need for change, or is it more profound than that?
I think there was the profoundness of the change was the speed. If we look back at the very first lockdown, and you said to me, how many used car retailers are actively selling cars online and have a journey that would be able to sell cars online? And there was a handful, some of the bigger dealer groups, and it was, I would guess somewhere sub 5% of the AM top 200. Maybe if we'd have carried on at that rate, we may now see some levels. But what happened was the pandemic changed things in a rapid space of time, and we had suppliers that were stepping forward and call out some of the media agencies, especially in used car, that very quickly started to roll out solutions to work with their clients. And I think just the sheer speed in lockdown one, that at the end of it, so many more retailers were retailing used cars online. It that was pretty phenomenal, the speed that they reacted to it.
Sure, great. And Andrew, have you got thoughts on that COVID-19?
Absolutely.
I bet you have.
I think from a dealer point of view, lockdown one we were effectively closed, but by lockdown two we'd already started to engage with consumers at the times that they wanted to engage using the online tools that were available. So we saw a massive upsurge in live chat penetration with dealers in our franchises. So the ability to engage with the consumer, either using a third party to answer those chats or actually having the infrastructure within the business to answer them, to book appointments, to then take the consumer through a virtual car buying experience, was definitely a change. And that, looking at the title, creating the best car buying experience, that's here to stay. To fundamentally to engage with the consumer at the time of day that they want to engage is key to having a great experience.
Sure, of course. And it seems a shame, doesn't it, that it took a pandemic, because the digital retail strategy has been on the agenda since way before the pandemic. And there are some more people within the retail automotive chain that are more digitally savvy, and there are some that aren't. So I guess, Joe, I'm going to bring you into the conversation now. And what do you see has been the key driver behind the shift? Do you think it's the technology, the consumer demand, the consumer behaviour, or what else is going in? Please share your thoughts.
It's probably a blend, isn't it? A blend of all three. If you think about customers, it's about convenience. We need to think about how we buy any item, not just a car, but anything from a handbag to a hairbrush, whatever it is you're buying. And it's about choice, speed, availability. So I think a lot of consumers now are doing their research online. They're looking for special offers. They're looking for a deal. They're looking at finance, the best rates that they can get, etc. So that when they go into the showroom, they've got all that information ready for them. And it takes away that pressure to maybe go into the showroom and not be able to afford a certain car, so they know what their budget is up front. Having said that, I think, nobody wants to spend the whole Saturday filling out a finance application in a showroom, but what they do want to do is sit and have that good level of customer service. They want to touch and feel the car. They want to feel like a valued customer, because majority-wise, it's quite a big purchase for a person to buy a used car or a new car, isn't it? So it's giving them that offline-online blend so that they can approach you when they're ready.
Sure, okay. So, I mean, I've bought many handbags online. What I would say is that you mentioned it there, really focused around mainly the used car, but do you think it's mostly something we're seeing mostly in the new car environment, or is this something across the used car sector, or is it across all levels?
It's definitely across all levels, so from premium down to volume. And I think obviously Modix, we're predominantly used car, but we're seeing more and more retailers use our tools on our platform. Andrew touched on live chat before. There's other tools that dealers can turn on to engage with customers when they're typically closed in the evenings, at weekends, etc. So I think the pandemic did accelerate it for used cars, and ultimately, once users have got used to that new way, then it'll just grow and grow and grow. Yeah,
sure, great. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Joe. Okay, my next question, Shaun. I'm going to throw this over to you. I've known Shaun for only a few weeks, really, since I've been in business, and there's a word out there, omni-channel. It's one of Shaun's favourite words. okay? And see him shaking his head there. So we're hearing that word omnichannel a hell of a lot at the moment, okay? And for the sake of clarity, I know you hate this question, what is meant by that? And I guess, you know, is it simply on, offline? What, give us your views on that. We could be here some time now.
We might be. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the word because I think what omnichannel, if you think of a channel, most people conjure up this image of something that is it's enclosed, something travels down it from one end to the other. And when people are talking about omnichannel, I think they're talking about online, customers buying cars online, and in-store, customers buying cars in store. And the reality is that they are not two distinct channels that somebody starts on and continues the whole journey and gets off. Occasionally, you will get it, but the vast majority of people are actually hopping between the two. And I bought a car earlier this year, and just to use my example, I did my search online, and I found the car I wanted. It wasn't too far away, so I drove over, had a quick look at it when the dealership was shut, because I didn't want to speak to anybody from sales. I got in my car, I reserved it online, I waited for the phone call the next day, then we moved on to email, and then I picked it up physically. So I channel hopped 5 times, in essence, and used 4 different mediums: in-person, telephone, email, and digital. So I would encourage people not to think of it in terms of it's omni-channel, so I've got that channel, I've got that channel. Customers are becoming fluid, and you need to ensure that fluidity between your various outlets to do business, let's call it. I'll think of a better word one day and replace omni-channel. But you need to be more fluid, and you need to then be able to track and control the movement. But in essence, replace omni-channel with allow the customer to do what they want and craft their own buying journey that suits them. Mine suited me. I controlled it. It was a great experience because I controlled it and it did what I wanted it to do. But yeah, think more fluid than 2 separate channels.
Great. Okay, no, thank you. And by the way, we'll have time for some questions at the end. And if anybody has a better name for omnichannel, then please recommend that at the end as well, okay? So we're hunting that down, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess there's that new consumer experience. Is it new? It's still an expectation, yeah, that we're talking about here, okay? And I guess to go down that digital channel, the retailers will need a bunch of tools. And I'm looking at you, Andrew, now, okay, because you look like a man who's got a good toolkit, okay? So what toolkit would you recommend, or a great digital toolkit would you recommend that our retailers should be looking at?
I think, picking up on what Shaun said, it's really important to allow the consumer to hop between one and the other. So I think for me as a consumer, it's really important that if I do something on digital, when I go in store, they know what I've done. I don't have to repeat myself. I don't have to go through everything again. So it's making sure that whatever the retailers use, everything's joined up together. And I know, James, you'll probably pick up on that when we talk about EVA. But it is really important to engage with your consumer and not try and get them to do the same journey again. Just touching on that journey, I don't know if anybody in the room, any of the audience have downloaded the Insight report, the Cox Insight report, but there's some brilliant research in there. And there was some research done in only June of this year. So after lockdown 3 and when we got back to a more stable market with consumers. And interestingly, 65% still wanted that in-dealership experience. Only 5% actually wanted that end-to-end seamless purchase online. It's the 35% and that growing number that are dipping in and out. That's the really interesting one for me. Apologies, I've just made that 105%. So it was 65, 30 and 5. So yeah, for me, I said before, it's about being available when your consumer wants you. I don't want people to have to work 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, but we need to look at when the consumer's looking at our stock. Online 24/7, the manufacturer sites that we work with, there are more people online at 8 o'clock at night than at any time during the working day. If your dealership is closed and you haven't got any means of communicating with them, there's a chance they might ring you in the morning, there's a chance they might send you an email, but there's more likelihood that your competitor is available. and they find the next car with your competitor, that person live chats with them or actually has a physical conversation and can take them out to the marketplace with an appointment.
Sure.
You know, so that for me is where we that great experience, it's actually being available for the customer and joined up so they don't have to repeat everything as I've just done.
Good, and good maths, and well corrected. So excellent. I guess James, I better put you into the conversation at some point, and why not do that now? So James, you know, Andrew mentioned it earlier. We need to talk about the role of part exchange within all of this, okay? And there's it's certainly fierce competition for you know the car buyers face at the moment, and especially in this market, I think you know over 50% of car purchases involve a part exchange right now. So, what's your take on this, and how are EVA helping dealers to meet this growing demand and challenge that they face?
Yeah, okay. So it's a great question. So, you know, I think with the buying of you know, a new or a used vehicle, the part exchange is already, you know, it's always been a key element of the negotiation. And historically, that's been quite a complex piece of the puzzle to integrate into an online journey. So, you know, we created EVA and launched that at the end of 2019 to address that very problem. And really, you know, what is EVA? Well, it's a single valuation and appraisal tool that's basically been built from the ground up on the latest technology. Our purpose really is to enable transparent and trusted online transactions through user-friendly tools and accurate valuations. At its heart, we're agnostic of data source, and we can use traditional industry data sources as well as our own data through a strategic partnership that Cox Automotive actually has with Auto Trader. So we're amalgamating two of the UK's kind of largest data sets there in order to be able to produce our valuations. We've got a capability that on top of that we can layer our kind of rules builder functionality, and what that enables our clients to be able to do is to make their own adjustments on top of the valuations that we generate, and you know, that can help to support trade-ins that a retailer may want to source for their own stock, but also allows kind of customers like our OEMs to be able to target conquest acquisition stock as well, and yeah, they find that feature very useful. So, you know, we've got a very, very high confidence in the valuation accuracy of our product, so much so that we actually underwrite the valuations that we generate. It means that we buy unwanted part exchanges from our customers for a guaranteed price. And you know, essentially that's de-risking the part exchange element for some of our customers. And part of that process, we pay really quickly, freeing up all that important cash flow.
Great. Okay, and I'm going to stay with you. Okay, so I'm just curious as to what you think is the, or firstly, how important is it to connect that online and offline experience?
So it's very important, and you know that was the primary reason why we built the EVA platform. You know, it's possible basically to integrate EVA directly into your consumer journey through our APIs. And essentially what we've tried to do is create this transparent online to in-store consumer journey. Consumers are able to self-serve accurate valuations instantly just by answering very, very simple questions to establish the condition of their vehicles. And it allows that trade-in value to actually be part of that online deal. You know, ultimately that follows through and is finalised at the dealership in our appraisal tool, which essentially works on desktop, tablet and mobile. We've supported a number of manufacturers and dealer groups over the last few years, and we've built a product that not only supports consumers online but supports retailers in store. So it really is quite a unique proposition. We bring transparency to the process, creating trust between the client and the consumer, removing the haggle and improving the transaction for everyone involved.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate here because, I mean, I've been there as well. Everybody's got an opinion on the valuation, okay? So no doubt about it. Nobody ever agrees. You know, I heard people say you can't beat experience of going around and kicking the tyre, all right? You know, there's so much debate to be had on actually how we should be valuing. So with Eva, yeah, I guess my question is, what's the science behind a reliable valuation?
Okay.
Is it simply down to algorithms and big databases? Please tell us, how do you get to that right value?
Yeah, so for digital retail to be successful, consumers and dealers alike have to they have to trust the part exchange valuations that are being generated. They need to be accurate. So, one of the, I suppose, our main USP with the product really is that the valuations that we produce are over 99% accurate, and we do that really by kind of starting with the largest data set in the UK. We observe in the order of about 1 million plus daily price observations, and that's through our kind of physical and online sales channels, so Mannheim and dealer auction, as well as our strategic partnership with Auto Trader. We overlay condition adjustments on the top of that, and that's very much kind of driven by the answers that our consumers kind of complete online. So that can be as simple as one of 5 preset condition statements that the consumer chooses, all the way through to a fully detailed, comprehensive vehicle appraisal. Essentially underpinning the algorithm is a team of valuation specialists. So they're constantly adjusting our valuations to ensure that they actually reflect the ever-changing market. And our analogy really is similar to that of a club DJ who typically would use kind of knobs and sliders on their mixing desk to adjust the EQ of the music that they're playing to suit the room. And similarly with our experts, they're refining based on make, model, kind of granular subsets to ensure the pricing is highly accurate and reflects the market.
Great. Okay, thank you. And it's something I've been really impressed with since being here over the last 5-6 weeks. It's a super product, very good. So, thank you. Let me see, Shaun, I'm going to come back to you. Okay. So, obviously, finance is a key area. Yeah. It's not just the concern of new vehicle dealers. It's also increasingly important for the used. I guess my question to you directly is what do used vehicle dealers need to be considering when it comes to the finance?
I think there's, from an online perspective, we're in a good position at the front end. An awful lot of retailers are now bringing forward their offers to the customers. They're making them searchable. There's rich information there about the various products that are on offer. So actually finding a retailer's finance offering online, it's in a good place. There's some new, we also cope pretty well with the FCA changes in earlier this year. There are some new strengthening of principles coming in next year. So the one thing in terms of the new principles about ensuring customers are getting the right product, that it suits their needs. So I think retailers probably just need to review their online offerings against those principles. I actually think we're in a really good place with them, but it's just worth noting that is heading down the line. The principles are being strengthened. I think where we've got a slight weakness and things we need to work on as an industry is finance penetration in the used car space is still probably not where we could make it. I think there's the last set of statistics was somewhere around 28-29% used car finance penetration, lower in the independent space, slightly higher in certain franchises, but 3 out of 4 customers finance a car in some way. And we still need to work on how do we close that gap. We're still attracting less than half of the people that want to finance a car into motor finance in the used car space. There is loads of cool stuff being done by lenders. They're looking at rate for risk, eligibility solutions. So there's plenty coming down that I'd encourage people to look at and think, how can we target the extra penetration, and why are people going to the other sources of finance? Why can't we have them? Because there's a prize there to be had for sure. It is important, but I think there's still some way to go.
No, agreed. Thank you. And Andrew, I guess the final question for you I've got here is is really looking at the tools that we were discussing earlier. Yeah, surely it's great that the technology and the tools are there, but surely the tool is only as good as the user.
That's absolutely right. Picking up on what Shaun's just said, something that I'm really passionate about is something called a virtual pitch walk. Every one of our dealers will do a daily pitch walk. They'll walk the physical inventory. You know, if there's a piece of litter, it'll be picked up. The place will look immaculate. But do they have the same level of focus on their digital forecourt? Because that's where 65, 70% of their interest is initially coming from. To touch on the finance piece, it's really important now, if you've got a monthly payment calculator, review the price that you're returning on a car. As more and more people are now being payment led, and we're bringing people from new cars where we can't renew their PCP because there's a lack of inventory at the moment, into the used car world. If somebody sets the budget at £300 a month and you've got a car that desperately you'd love to sell, but it's actually £301.54, you might just want to tweak the retail price £60, £70 to drop that car on a monthly budget less than £300 so a consumer can find it. And that's the biggest thing for me, is the tools are great, but actually spend the time to review what they're presenting to the consumer and you'll maximise your opportunity.
Great, thank you. And I guess, just conscious of time, question to any of you can take this one, jump in. Okay, so for me, is you spoke about some really, really good examples, tools that should be used in digital for expectations, consumers, etc., really, really useful. So where can the car retailers look right now for some really good examples of it working?
I'll throw one out. This is a site that, look at retail. You know, there's some absolutely stunning retail sites out there. Go and look at Sofology. Look at their website, but also look at their business model. And how they changed. They were a very traditional, we sell sofas and we'll have a sale on 6 out of every 7 days and, you know, 50% off, and our salespeople were commissioned heavily, and they stopped that. And they went, no, we're going to retail sofas at the retail price. There are no more sales. And we're going to have a really blended approach. You walk in there, you try a sofa, the assistants are, you can go and order this online at home. They're fine, whichever way you want to order this. But you go and look at their website, it's very slick, great inventory, easy to check out. Yeah, we can learn a lot from retail. We don't always need to sit in motor. You know, go and check what people are doing out there in other sectors, and let's pick up some of their best practices.
Great.
I'd look at some of the new entrants into the marketplace. You know, we're an industry where people always try and nibble away and take lumps away from us. But have a look at their websites. 100% imagery, video on every vehicle, open till 8 o'clock 9 o'clock every night, 7 days a week. They've engaged with the consumer. Selling a car without a picture is really, really hard. So 100% image ratio, it drives inquiries.
Great. Okay, thanks guys. I'm going to open questions out to the audience right now. Before I do, just I guess this is a bit like Jerry's final thoughts. But for me, what we've learned is, I think that actually the tools, the digital tools, the technology is there. We should be using it. A lot of people are using the tools at the moment, but possibly I think the lack of investment goes back to maybe getting the right process in place for how we do the digital journey. It's about training our people to ensure that we don't lose leads. You can physically see somebody walk in and you know their interest, but actually are you using that technology to get that propensity of when you should be focused on that consumer who's about to buy your product? So for me, I think the process is different, as you mentioned there, for physical to digital. And we need to realize that and actually start to use the technology, start to train our people, and make sure that we've got a really strong process in place, because that way we will be ensuring that we are not losing people walking out of our virtual showrooms. Yeah? Any questions from guys? Anything about sofas? No? Okay, this is your final chance. That's good, because I was promised, because I see a few old faces out here I've known for a while, and I was told I was going to be heckled. And I don't take to heckling. No, I do. But I guess the final thing for me is to say, listen, thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it useful. I hope you picked up 1 or 2 little golden nuggets. If that's the case, then brilliant. I'm afraid it's not Bear Grylls. He's in the other hall. I'm not sure if you've seen that. And finally, I'd just like to thank the panel, especially Joe for stepping in last minute. But Shaun, Andrew, James and Joe, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and have a good afternoon.